Neighborhood low gets a step with me. Can't pull up here unless it's me.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me. Alright, y'all, so new topic for today, man. It is, oh boy, hot outside. Gaslighting. Why Terence Bud Crawford's boxing skills are no better than Errol Spence Jr.'s. Alright, y'all, so I see it's a debate going on right now about the skill sets of both these fighters. You know, the whole hype situation for this fight is going crazy. You know, people really want to see this fight on both sides. Doesn't matter if you're a Crawford fan, doesn't matter if you're a Spence fan. You have to be enjoying the conversation that's going on, you know, all the vlogs that are being made. You know, everybody's putting out good information based on what they know about the sport of boxing and what they know about their specific fighter. You know, I know a lot of people are upset with, you know, the other side, whether you're a Crawford fan being upset with the Spence side or you're a Spence fan being upset with the Crawford side. You have to be enjoying the content that's being made at the moment, because it's only in hopes that this fight actually happens and that we can push the fight into existence. So don't take all this as hate, man. Just take it as fanfare, people voicing their opinions, people actually wanting this fight to come to fruition. Now, let's talk about the situation with the boxing skills. Whose boxing skills are actually better? Are Terence Crawford's boxing skills better, or Errol Spence Jr.'s boxing skills the better of the two fighters? And I think it depends on how you break down the fight. How do you break down the fight? Who, you know, what skill set is going to be the winning skill set? You know, is it going to be speed? Is it going to be power? Is it going to be ring IQ? Is it going to be boxing fundamentals? All these things are going to play a huge role in who wins this fight. Now, I mean, you can break down all of those intangibles. You can start with the speed, you can go with the power, you can go with the boxing IQ or ring IQ, you can go with boxing, all-around boxing knowledge. And if you compare just three, let's just take three of those intangibles. Let's go with speed, power, ring IQ, and I guess you could say ring generalship. You know, it's a bunch of skill sets that you could break down to try to figure out the winner of this fight. But if we just went speed, ring IQ, and power, who would win this fight? Based off of the speed, you know, and there's one other factor, you know, I think, but I'll get to that after breaking down speed, power, and ring IQ. So if you just went with speed first, let's talk about speed. Of course, obviously, to the naked eye, the average person is going to say, if they watch both fighters, Terence Crawford is the more speedy of the two fighters. Now, does that make Terence Crawford a high-end speed fighter? To me, no, he's not. He's not a speed fighter to the caliber of a Manny Pacquiao or Prince Nassim or Amir Khan in his prime, or a Roy Jones in his prime. You know, he's not that kind of speed fighter. But what he does do with speed, he does it very well. He has a switching stance. He can create, you know, angles, not to the effect of a Manny Pacquiao, but he has the ability to create angles. And that speed and angles could possibly give Errol Spence some trouble in the fight, because we all know Errol Spence sometimes can be very predictable with his movement. You know, his movement is sometimes been mummy-ish, to say the least. Like, he sometimes moves kind of like a mummy. You kind of wondering, why is he moving that way? But I think Errol Spence possesses speed in his own way. It all depends on how you break down speed. The way Errol Spence uses speed is different than the way a boxer like Terence Crawford uses speed. Errol Spence uses speed to get to a specific spot. Is the reason why he moves the way he does. He tries to get to a specific spot and lay down power shots. So that's the way he uses speed. So he's not using footwork to get to a bunch of different spots in the boxing ring to try to get you to maybe gas out or slow down, or try to follow him around and end up making a mistake trying to follow him, and then he land a shot similar to Terence Crawford. But he uses speed, like I said, differently. He uses speed to get to a specific position, and then he's going to lay down power shots. Now let's go into power punching. Okay, so who has the better power punching out of those two fighters? Obviously, if you watch both fighters, you know Terence Crawford, he's not a one-shot knockout artist. Neither is really Errol Spence, for that matter. But Errol Spence, I think, packs more of a wallop with his punch than Terence Crawford does. Terence Crawford, similar to Errol Spence with the speed, in the power department, he uses accumulation of punches to break down a fighter, similar to what Pacquiao used to do. But Pacquiao is much more speedy with that ability than Terence Crawford is, and he was able to basically use speed to overwhelm bigger fighters. And I think Terence Crawford can do something similar to that, but Errol Spence uses power to break down fighters. He doesn't need the speed, because he has the power to stand in front of you and land shots. Now, we know with Terence Crawford being a speed style fighter, he doesn't really have to just stand there in front of you to get shots. So, he's going to try his best to make Errol Spence follow him around the ring and catch Errol Spence in a weird angle, and use speed punches to try to knock him out or slow him down or just overwhelm him. While Errol Spence is going to try to get to a specific position in the ring. He's going to land those body shots. He's going to throw hard head shots, and he's going to try to knock you out or break something inside of you so you don't want to continue. So right now we're kind of equal on skill sets. If you just had those three skill sets to go off of, speed, power, and ring IQ, right now we're equal. Terence Crawford has the speed, Errol Spence has the power, and power also can be the ability to absorb punches, which I think Errol Spence can do because he's a bigger body than Terence Crawford. When you talk specifically to this fight, you got to say, well, Errol Spence is going to be the guy to be able to absorb more of those punches. Now, when Pacquiao fought Margarito, I think a lot of people thought that about Margarito. Well, Margarito will be able to absorb a lot of those shots, and he was, but Pacquiao landed so many shots that he ultimately won the fight, So I think that's what people are thinking kind of about Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford, once again, doesn't have the speed to the caliber of a Manny Pacquiao. So right now, let's just call it even. Let's say Terence Crawford has a great skill set he can hang his hat on. Errol Spence has a great skill set he can hang his hat on. Now, ring IQ or ring generalship, whichever one you want to call those, I would say both these fighters are very, very, they have a very, very high boxing IQ. Both fighters, they use their boxing IQ in different ways. Errol Spence knows how to cut off a ring. He knows how to get a boxer in position to land big shots and not have to move around and exert a lot of energy. He's learned that and mastered that in a boxing ring. At the same time, Terence Crawford uses his ring IQ differently. He uses speed, he uses accumulative punches, and he uses footwork that he's learned through, boxing IQ and ring generalship to overwhelm a fighter, to put a fighter in an awkward position, to land a big shot. So I would say if you went off of those three intangibles, speed, power, ring IQ, generalship, then actually both of these fighters are equal. And I keep telling y'all, this is almost an equal fight. It's just not equal on the money. This is an equal fight on skill sets. It's just not an equal fight on the money, because Errol Spence did all the heavy lifting when it comes to going and collecting all of those belts. So he actually deserves a bigger piece of the money pie. Whether people think, that's going to win him the fight or not, and which I don't think it is. I don't think that's not even why I'm predicting him to win the fight at this point. I'm predicting him to win the fight now solely based off the fact that Terence Crawford is acting like he doesn't want to get in the ring with him. And there has to be a reason for that. There has to be a reason why he either is holding out to a specific time, or holding out for a specific dollar amount, or trying to make the fight age a little bit, so maybe he feels a little more comfortable with getting in the ring with Spence. Because simply, it's a 50-50 fight, but I'm picking Spence because I think Spence has the ability to absorb a lot of those Terence Crawford punches. I don't think Terence Crawford can output as many punches as a Manny Pacquiao can, and so I don't believe that he can overwhelm Errol Spence with punches, speed punches, to win the fight. I think actually what would happen to me is Errol Spence would cut off the ring. He would land big shots. And what we know about Terence Crawford is nobody has ever tested his chin. Nobody has really ever landed the type of shots to stop Terence Crawford. So we know Errol Spence has the ability to throw those shots and land those shots, and he knows how to cut off the ring. So based on that, and the fact that Terence Crawford is the naturally smaller of the two guys, and that he really hasn't faced the stiffest competition at 147, so we don't know what type of punching power he can actually absorb and take to this point. We don't know if he's actually able to absorb and take the best punches a 147 fighter can throw at him, because we haven't seen him face up with a 147 fighter who is at his best. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen him face up with competition that was champion competition at one time, but Errol Spence took their belt when they were at their best, and Terence Crawford got them when they were kind of inactive. And the best fight he's had so far, or the best opponent he's actually faced up with as a 147 fighter to this point, has been Jeff Horn, because he was actually a seeded champion. Now, I know a lot of people will argue that, well, Shawn Porter was this, or, Amir Khan was that, or Kell Brook was this, but none of those guys were actually champions when Terence Crawford fought them, so they were not at their best. So, at this point, Errol Spence is the 3-time welterweight champion of the world. He is at his best, and we'll have to see, can Terence Crawford actually take those punches? Is he going to end up in a Ugas type situation with a fractured orbital bone, or if Errol Spence does land one on his chin, how does he react? Like Bob Arum said, how will Crawford actually react when somebody lands a big shot on him? We just don't know. But if you want to talk boxing skills and be truthful about the conversation, it's a 50-50 fight based off of boxing skills. And the only way you can determine the winner is to actually sit down and try to break down, well, which of these guys has an ability that the other one doesn't, and can that ability ultimately win him the fight. And I think punching power is the one thing that nobody's really talking about, and the fact that it's always been a questionable aspect of Terence Crawford's boxing career. Can he take a punch? And we know that Errol Spence Jr. can deliver a punch. Well, my camera's overheating, so I got to get off of her. I hope y'all hit that like button for me. Please subscribe, tell a friend, dog, cat, anybody you know. Hit me up on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You're more than likely to get a response on YouTube. than any of the other ones. It's your boy Cardinal Bud Crawford, or ES Red, if that's what you want to call me, and we are not here.
Everybody say they gon' shoot. Nigga get shot, somebody press charges.